Tēnā koutou and welcome to this episode of the Manawatū People's Radio and Manawatū Standard By-Election Special Series. We have Jimmy Ellingham, Senior Reporter from the Manawatū Standard, and I am Fraser Gregg from NPR. And in this series we are interviewing the candidates in the Palmerston North City Council by-election, the hopefuls vying for the seat left vacant by Tangi Utikere in 2020. And today we have Orphee Mickalad. Hello.
Hello, kia ora.
How's the campaign going?
The campaign is going great, and I think I'm overwhelmed by the amount of support that I've been getting from the community and the wider community, and it's been very positive. You do get a bit of challenges here and there from a small minority. Just some things you can't change. You can't change people's perception of you, and especially campaigning as well as a migrant can be very challenging. But there's a lot of positivity out there, and there's a lot of support, and my story and my policies are resonating with the wider public, and I'm getting a lot of support from across the political spectrum, which is quite interesting.
In terms of life experience, I think you can claim to have the most of pretty much all of the candidates. You've come from Congo as a refugee.
Yes, so I came to New Zealand from the Congo, from the neighbouring country Gabon in 2006. So me and my family have been living here in Palmerston North. I came as a refugee, so my family and I survived 2 civil wars, and the political repression there meant that we had to move to the neighbouring country called Gabon, and we stayed there in a refugee camp for about 7 years until my dad applied for refugee resettlement to be resettled abroad through the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So they've got a program for refugees to resettle them in mainly first world countries, but you do get some going into second world or third world countries as well.
Looking to your campaign, I mean, it's looking very impressive. The website, the flyers.
Thank you.
It must be costing a bit.
It is costly, but one thing that I've always been told, having been in the political scene as well, is that your first campaign should be your very best. You need to make an impression, and that's what I ran with. And I'm just having fun. I'm loving talking to people on issues that are important to them, and also, trying to make sure that my campaign and alongside my campaign team keep it very professional as well. So that's what we've been doing, and it's been working, and it's a lot of money, but I came in prepared. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, and I prepared for it, and here's the result.
It strikes me as the framework for a central government election campaign. I mean, you've got into a lot of detail around policies and having policy standpoints and positions. And I wonder if that's appropriate for local government, where you're not voting on getting a mandate to do things. You're voting to be a representative of the people who may not share some of those policies.
Of course, you're always going to get there in any elections, whether it's central or local government. But I think it's important to highlight your positions on certain things. I probably disagree a little bit with that whole central government sort of view that I'm bringing to this to the election. I think most of the policies that I've written, or my policy positions on any of my brochures or my website, are actually some of the stuff that are relevant to what the challenges that we are facing in Palmerston North on issues such as economic development, housing, infrastructure, and the environment. Cleaning our river, it's something that is very local, and we do need to work alongside other authorities around us as well, Fielding and Tararua and all those surrounding authorities, to make sure that we work together collaboratively to clean our river. And also on housing, it's very important because at the moment there's a housing shortage, and house prices grew by 11.5% in the past 12 months to 513,000. That's an average of $120,000 increase in just 1 year in Palmerston North. There was a time whereby you could buy a house for $250,000. I know this because I've got some friends who got ahead of me on a property letter. But those are issues that are relevant to the community. So I don't see it very much as a central sort of government policy.
I think there's a bit of a distinction there in that housing is something that the City Council can do something about in the social housing space, in the resource consent space. There are things that the council have control over. With economic development, the council's involvement there is the setting up and supporting of CEDA to then manage the vast majority of the economic development that happens. So having a sort of policy statement on that as a councillor seems to me, I mean, it's good to know where your values are, but it's not something that you can actively advocate or change when CEDA exists to manage that.
I disagree with that personally. If you look at Palmerston North, we do have an issue, and that is a brain drain. And there's a reason why there's a brain drain, simply because there's not so many economic opportunities for young people. Like myself, I do have a lot of friends of mine who went to university with me, who had studied all sort of degrees from finance, economics, accounting, vet, and that sort of things. And as soon as they finished, there was nothing for them to do. And they were forced to leave Palmerston North to other centres such as Wellington or New Plymouth or Auckland to look for opportunities, and I did so myself. I lived in Palmerston North, went to Freiburg, and went to Messi University afterwards, and got my degree in political science, social policy and development studies. Then I waited, no jobs, and most of the policy jobs or anything that I was interested in was in Wellington. And I decided to go and do my master's, applied for a couple of jobs, even council roles as well, but nothing came up. So I had to move to Wellington to sort of find that opportunity for me. So when I speak about economic development, I want to create opportunities for those people and finding high quality jobs for because we're considered an economic hub. I mean, regional economic hub, and also education hub. And I want to make sure that our kids who are studying here or moving out of Palmerston North to find opportunities do come back. So it's about creating those opportunities to ensure that everyone has the choice to pursue their dreams at home, not to leave Palmy because they have to, but to leave Palmy because of choice. So that's why I want to encourage economic development, especially businesses, supporting our businesses as well.
Again, I mean, it strikes me that a lot of this stuff is the role of CEDA. Are you someone who supports the recent move by the Mayor and Deputy Mayor to bring back some of that funding that's given to the Central Economic Development Agency to use in-house in the City Council, perhaps for some of the purposes that you've
Definitely, outlined? I do support that as well. And I do think that it's also the Council's role to sort of attract businesses. If I'm an investor and I want to invest in a particular place, the place has to be conducive, and value for money, that sort of things. So it's about promoting Palmerston North as a destination, a conducive destination for investors to sort of invest in our local economy, creating jobs, and also supporting our businesses to grow, and therefore creating more jobs for people and getting them off the benefit, and for them to be self-sustaining as well. So I do think the council has a role to play in that, and also the way that we promote our city. For example, New Plymouth or Napier, for example, have been doing a great job of promoting themselves. And on the 26th of December, just last year, Napier hosted a Black Caps cricket game, right? And we're bigger than Napier, and we're telling ourselves, why can't we host those sort of sporting events to attract people to come and enjoy Palmerston North, and therefore pumping money into our local economy, and therefore supporting our businesses as well, that sort of things. So it's all about promoting our city as a destination for investment, and I believe through investment and attracting people to sort of pump money into our local economy.
That CEDA issue is quite a contentious one, and it certainly can be polarising, because there is a lot of evidence to suggest that the City Council should leave the money with CEDA and let them do their job.
Of course, you get a lot of people who probably disagree with that point of view as well. And some people as well on the other side who actually agree that council should have more of a role in taking ownership of their own destiny, that sort of thing. So
you mentioned social housing and housing in general. I mean, it seems a bizarre situation at the moment in that everyone recognises there's a housing crisis.
Definitely.
Everyone knows what the solution is, which is to build more houses.
Yeah.
And we've known this for a long time, and yet there are not the numbers of houses being built that we need. That all seems to be perfectly clear. What can you do as one voice in a group of 16 to facilitate change, either for the council to build more social housing, to free up the resources for other housing, because you are just one voice.
Yeah, I may be one voice, but doesn't mean that I cannot work alongside others or stakeholders and that sort of thing. I believe in working collaboratively with my colleagues, that sort of thing. So it's all about also influencing others. So those are policy positions that I have, and therefore I'll go to the council table with those policy proposals and just need to get the support to pass them through. I do believe that social housing is very important, and I know a lot of things. I mean, you mentioned earlier that housing is an issue, and nothing has happened, so not much has happened so far. It does take political courage. And for me personally, I do see the council playing more role into that. For example, the government just announced their housing planning plan, which was last week. So the council's role right now should be to review the land holdings and designate or determine what's appropriate for development or for residential development, that sort of things. So I'll be swiftly asking the council to do that. If I'm given the privilege to serve on the council, that's what I'll be doing. And also freeing up more land and that sort of things. I personally do believe that the solution to the housing crisis is simple economics, supply and demand. If demand exceeds supply, what do? You build more houses. And what does that require? It requires the council to free up more land and streamline the resource consent and that sort of things to make it easier for houses to get built.
But the issue is slightly more complex than that, in that you need to incentivise developers to build the right sort of houses.
Yeah, sure.
And how are we going to do that when developers can make more money out of a 3 or 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom house than they can off the little units and things? Oh yeah,
but there's also a role for the council to play in providing social housing, for example. We do have, I believe, in also taking care of the most vulnerable. My parents and I, when we came as refugees, we live in a house in New Zealand. It was and those houses were income related, that sort of things. And I think that's what the council should be doing, and developers obviously they'll have private interests as well, that sort of thing. So we can never make those sort of houses sort of income related, but the council can do a bigger role in even speeding up. And I love what they did at Papoya Street, our place, sorry. And I think there's a role for them to play in terms of like providing more houses for our most vulnerable, because we're always going to have them. We're going to have the elderly. We're going to have people who are on low income, people of low social and economic background, that sort of things, who need to be housed. Also, homelessness is on the rise, not just in Palmy but around the country. And those people need to get housed. And the winter is coming next year again. And they need to be housed. So I do think the council should be playing more of a leading role in providing social housing.
Very good. We will turn to Jimmy Ellingham, senior reporter from the Manawatū Standard, for questions from readers and MPR listeners.
Yes, thanks, Rachel, and welcome.
Thank you.
One of our most popular questions, if you like, from people was, how will you keep our rates down? But we've been more asking it as, how will you balance keeping rates affordable for people with the things you want to do, like social housing, and even the likes of, you've talked about attracting international sport here, but that would require some money to be spent on the facilities we have. So how are you going to strike that balance?
Cool. So the thing is also that if we want a world-class city, and because Palmy is growing, and we need to make sure that we are innovative, and that we are building our infrastructure and that sort of thing, and that will require more money, obviously. But I also believe in reviewing our rate system as well, and I like what Auckland has been doing as well in terms of reviewing the rate system. And I also believe in delivering value for money and that sort of thing.
For our listeners, sorry to interrupt you, what has Auckland been doing?
So I think 2 years ago or last year, they've launched a review of their rating system. Rate system, sorry, in that. how they should be collecting rates and that sort of things, whether it's through fuel at the pump, an extra 10 cents, that sort of thing. So I do believe that can happen here. We can review our rate system, for example, how we collect.
So you'd be open to
rates.
seeing something that wasn't necessarily just paying rates on land or house value, other ways of making those costs?
There are other ways of, generating money, not just through rates, that sort of thing. So we could also, so what I'm saying here is that we can give ratepayers value for money without increasing more rates. It could be reviewing even some of our current projects that are not working and getting rid of them, that sort of things. And I know I'm not gonna be the only person making a decision on what should stay or what should go, that sort of thing. But it's also about us being smart and giving ratepayers value for money by reviewing some of the projects that are not working and then canning it for other projects that that are efficient and that will move our city forward.
Speaking of efficiencies, the other thing people, readers and listeners want to know about is our roads. The common refrain we have is, how will you fix our roads? So if you can tell us how you do that. But also, are you in favour of cycle facilities? That was another popular thing that we want to know. What's your view on cycleways?
My view on cycleways is that we for our residents to be safe, we need to create an environment that is also accommodating to all people. So that means people who are cycling, and also elderly on scooters, and our young kids, riding the skateboards and on the footpath, that sort of thing. So I am for cycleways, and it ensures that our city is safe for all our residents who are using all forms of mobility to get around the city. So I do support, that's my view on that as well. And I do believe that our city should be environmentally friendly. That means, having people who are moving with carbon neutral, not just vehicles and that sort of thing, but mode of transportation like bicycles and scooters and that sort of thing. So yeah.
One issue we've heard about from many candidates is what they would term engagement, and we're expecting not a huge turnout probably for this by-election, unfortunately. How do you get the people who aren't interested in what you've got to say? And I don't mean you personally, I mean what council candidates have to say. How do you get them involved in the process? Because, for example, I mean, you're a younger person yourself, so you're perhaps not typically interested in such issues. Yeah. But how can you get others to be involved?
Definitely, I'm probably even been checking up my social media, but it's been buzzing. I think it's about creating momentum. I'm interested. I mean, I'm somebody who's very passionate, not just about young people, but I like to focus. I want to get young people to be interested in local body politics. And I think when I first put my hand up for council, that was stated in one of the articles that was written about me, that I would love to see more young people get involved in local body elections. But that can only happen if we also encourage and have ways of incentivizing it, meaning that seeing different people of different backgrounds, and also having diversity in terms of age, not just representation on the council table. I think that will encourage more young people to get out and vote. And I think also around my campaign, what we've been doing on social media has been getting a lot of young people interested. And my video that I put out, my campaign promotional video, had about 35,000 views on all social media platforms, and young people are getting involved and engaged. And it's also, having diversity in terms of age as well on the council table will encourage young people to want to vote, because you don't want somebody, no disrespect to any councillors on the table who are over 50 or something, but to get somebody who's probably over 50, 60 making decision for someone who, like me, who's 30 years old, or somebody who's 18 years old. There's a little bit of a disconnect, and young people feel like, okay, why should I get involved in something or on with something that councillors or are not listening to, that sort of thing. So I do believe that, especially with the rise of other councillors who are around the same age as me, putting their hands up as well for council, I commend that. I commend that, because a lot of young people have put their hands up for this, and I do believe that that's gonna galvanize the youth to sort of come out and vote. Yeah.
And as we're running out of time, a final question: who nominated you, and who was your seconder?
Lorna Johnson nominated me.
Right.
Lorna has been a great family friend of ours, and when we came as refugees, she was actually a refugee volunteer, so she's been with us for a long time. And another one was one of my best friends from church, Desmond. He's a pharmacist and works at Vautier Pharmacy near Botanical Road. So, yeah, and so those were the people that nominated me.
Right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Orphee, Mickalad, thank you very much for joining us on this episode today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me today.
And that's all we have time for in this episode of the NPR and Manawatū Standard By-Election Special Series. Other episodes are available at npr.nz/show/by-election 21, with the series also running during the first week of February at 9 a.m. Monday to Friday on NPR, which is 999 a.m. across Manawatū, and via our live stream at npr.nz. Of course, keep an eye on the Manawatū Standard for further coverage of the candidates and their campaigns, and ultimately the results on the 22nd of February. And remember, your vote must be posted in a DX mailbox or directly to the council by 12 p.m. on Wednesday the 17th of February for your vote to count in this election. Thank you for joining us. Tēnā koutou.